Welcome to the other side of medicine. I'm Dr. James Christosik, and we're glad that you're spending a little time with us this evening. You're on the other side of medicine. We take an approach that is a little bit different. We use common sense, backed up by science, good research, and cooperation with nature. Those are the three main principles that we operate on in this podcast. And so, if you've never been here before, welcome to the podcast and tell your family and friends about us if you like what you hear. So, tonight we're going to be getting in and diving into the best of the other side of medicine from former episodes that we had some guests that talked about heart disease, specifically the connection between the food we put in our mouth and the bacteria in our gut, and how those two things interact to either prevent heart disease or to trigger heart disease. So, when you discover the information that I'll share with you tonight, you will be surprised because your doctor's not going to tell you these things. I guarantee that. Only 1% or 2% of doctors will sit down and talk to you about these things that I'll be sharing with you tonight and what our guests from former episodes will share with you as well. So we're glad that you're here again. And let me just begin by saying that each Thursday evening, we provide a forum so that you can take a proactive role in your health and begin to make a difference in your health. You can reclaim your health. If you are suffering with chronic disease, you don't have to accept that you're going to end up for the rest of your life suffering with that chronic condition. There is a better way, and nature has the answer. It's not me. It's not anybody else. God has placed a power inside the body to heal ourselves. And so we need to recruit that power. And if we're wise, we'll use the principles that we talk about here on this program. The common sense is something that's not typically used. So I want to really dive into some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. One of the things I really want to dive into is talking about the connection between the heart disease problems. Again, we have 50% of people will die from a heart attack. That's unacceptable. That's the word I would use. Unacceptable. We have to do better than that. We're supposed to be the healthiest nation on the planet. We're not. We're about 37th when it comes to the world, on the planet. We are about 37th in the nations as far as health goes. And yet we have more hospitals, more doctors' facilities, and more pharmaceutical places, drugstores to pick up medications. And yet we are sick, and tired. Sick, tired, and overweight. That's what we are. We need to do better. So if we look at heart disease, 7% survival rate of somebody who has a heart attack outside of a hospital. Now, keep in mind, if you're in a hospital and there's an emergency, we have the best emergency healthcare system in the world. Hands down, bar none. Nobody's going to argue that. But when it comes to chronic disease, when it comes to those debilitating conditions that are plaguing Americans, we're failing miserably. And if you consider that there's only a 7% survival rate if you have a heart attack outside of a hospital, you better be doing something on your own to prevent the heart attack, to prevent the stroke, to prevent heart disease, because it's not a very good statistic. The odds of you dying are very high if you are not in a hospital when you have that heart attack. And it comes unexpectedly. And so there are three different things. Actually, there's four. We'll talk about four different things that contribute to heart attacks. Number one is people who have heart attacks are typically overweight, typically have elevated cholesterol levels, and they also have other factors that are going to contribute, like diabetes and other kinds of chronic conditions that increase the risk for heart attacks or strokes. Now, when it comes to the connection between the bacteria living inside of our gut and heart attacks, most doctors don't have a clue. They don't have a clue about the connection. And there is a strong one. And we're going to dive into those things tonight. So I would like to share a couple clips from the former episodes. And I'm going to go ahead and right now and pull up one of those episodes right now. And we can go ahead and play that in just a minute if you give me technology and working on a podcast at the same time. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but I try my best. So let's see here. We can go to present. Okay, let's see. We can go to and let me go over here. Okay, I just can't seem to find what I'm looking for here. Okay, let's try this. Well, in any event, I'm just going to have to scratch using those clips that I wanted to share with you from former episodes, but I can continue talking to you about the connection between the bacteria living inside your gut and heart disease. Now, we know that people who have heart attacks, people who have strokes, will oftentimes have elevations in various blood factors. We know about cholesterol. Yeah, that's the typical one, the LDL cholesterol and the HDL cholesterol, the HDL being the good and the LDL being the bad. But there's another factor that only about 1% of doctors are testing for, and that is a blood factor called lipoprotein A. So it's a lipid compound attached with a protein, and it is a genetic factor. So we inherit this particular lipoprotein A. And we can't do anything about that, but we can do something about our lifestyle to help to reduce the incidence of heart attacks and strokes that are triggered by having this genetic inherited link inside your body. So, and by the way, the Black American has a significantly higher risk for this LP(a) cholesterol that is called the widowmaker, because it is such a devastating, shocking finding that people will discover too late that they have this LP(a). Once again, only less than 1% of doctors actually test for this particular factor. It's a cholesterol like the HDL, the LDL, but you have to ask your doctor to order it specifically, because they're typically not going to order it, because once again, they don't know about the connection, the strong connection. So you really need to be aggressive and emphatic to tell your doctor, I would like to have this LP(a) cholesterol tested with my panel for risk factors for heart disease. It's cost less than $100, so it's not a significantly expensive test. It's a relatively inexpensive test. So make sure that you ask your doctor to test for that LP(a). And by the way, there's no drug that can reduce the LP(a) factor, but there are some supplements that are showing some promising effects in helping to reduce the risk and lowering the LP little a. And by the way, I've had several patients over the years in my practice who had significantly high levels of LP little a. And after we introduced the dietary measures and the lifestyle measures and the supplements, their LP little a went dramatically south. It dramatically reduced. So that's encouraging to know that you can do that. I've seen it firsthand in my practice. And niacin is a supplement which is B3, has been shown some promising effect to help to reduce LP little a. Now I got to caution you though, because you don't want to get into the mindset to take this for that. That's a drug mindset. That's a pharmaceutical mindset. You have to look at your body as an orchestration of nutrients, an orchestration of phytochemicals, an orchestration of behaviors that contribute to your overall well-being. So your stress levels, your exercise habits, your sleep patterns, your nutritional patterns, the bacteria in your gut, all these variables are going to interplay on how you are able to either lower the LP little a, or it's going to be staying at the same level and you're going to be at a high risk for a heart attack or a stroke. So the good news is that you can reduce the LP little a factor, which again is the significantly high risk for a heart attack or stroke if you have that circulating in your blood. Now, what type of diet is going to help to reduce that LP little a? Well, that's the $64,000 question. Is it a keto diet? Is it a paleo diet? Well, I think not, because the LP little a is going to be actually triggered to cause a heart attack or a stroke when you eat a high saturated fat diet and a low fiber diet. So you want to eat beans and grains and nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables. You don't want to limit those foods, because we know from research that those people who eat that type of a diet, a plant-based diet, a primarily plant-based diet, that the incidence of heart attacks and strokes is dramatically reduced. That's encouraging to know. So you could take that to the health bank, and all these other fad diets that are out there, they may get short-term benefits. You might lose some weight. You might see the cholesterol come down initially. You might see your blood sugar come down initially. But long-term, the research is clear that these low-carb diets, these high saturated fat diets are a prescription for disaster. That's the way I would put it. So please don't get caught up into those fad diets. You know, these things come in cycles. You may see a 20-year cycle of eating lots of protein, and then protein goes out of favor, and then its carbs come back into favor. And then that goes out of favor, and then it's high fat diet. It's cyclical, but the research doesn't change. It's always going to be the same. And there's just volumes of research papers that clearly demonstrate that eating a plant-based diet is going to be your best asset. So I encourage you to ask your doctor to order this LP little a test, this LP little a cholesterol test. Again, it's less than $100, and it's well worth to find out if you have that genetic inherited factor, so that you can make some dramatic changes in your lifestyle and make a huge difference, make a world of difference in how you are able to affect your ability to prevent heart attacks and strokes. So this is something that you can do, and it's not something that is that difficult. It's pleasurable to eat the plant-based diet. You know, people around the world have so many recipes that are so delicious. It's never boring. There's always something delicious and exciting and new to try. And every single day, I have so many different types of foods that my wife and I prepare. And I look at the average American. What did you have tonight? Well, meat and potatoes. What did you have yesterday? Meat and potatoes. It's always the same. It's meat and potatoes, or meat and rice, or meat and bread. It's always the same. It's never the same when you use plants and herbs and spices and the wide variety of beans and nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables and herbs. All those things create a wonderful experience. And again, if you're going to eat animal protein, stick with eating more chicken, less red meat, and then also eat cold water fish like salmon or sardines or tuna. All the cold water fish have omega-3 fats in them, and we know those things reduce the risk for heart attacks and strokes. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you about is another blood factor that has recently been discovered. And even here in the Cleveland Clinic, they've done extensive research. They've done research at Cornell University. A lot of the educational institutions of higher learning from medical institutions have done lots of study on this next compound that I'm going to talk about called trimethylamine oxide and N-oxide, and that is TMAO. I'm just going to call it TMAO. It's a mouthful to say trimethylamine N-oxide, but you can say TMAO quite easily. And that compound is something that's produced in the liver, but it's really interesting because that compound is produced from an amino acid called carnitine, which you'll find mostly in animal protein. Now, there is a little tiny bit in plant-based foods, but it's in high concentrations in animal foods, whether it's chicken or turkey or beef or lamb or pork. Even eggs has it, and there's some certain fish that will have it as well. But the interesting thing is that the type of bacteria living in your gut is going to determine if that TMAO is going to become a risk factor for heart disease, strokes, and even some cancers, breast cancer in women specifically. So if the TMAO is elevated, you can be certain that you have the wrong type of bacteria living inside of your gut. The research is clear. The type of bacteria that transforms the carnitine into the TMAO harmful substance, which then triggers heart attacks or causes atherosclerosis, plaquing in the arteries, which could then lead to a heart attack and stroke. The bacteria that triggers that in the gut are the type of bacteria that feast on animal protein. And so people who love to eat animal protein harbor a specific type of bacteria called Firmicutes and certain types of Bacteroides. These are different types of bacteria. And those bacteria of those type are going to then work on those amino acid carnitine, and of course choline is another one. It's another nutrient, which is a really important nutrient, especially during pregnancy. But when you get it later on in life in excess quantities, if you have the wrong kind of bacteria living in your gut, it will then turn into the TMAO in the liver and then cause plaque in the arteries. So you want to be sure that you encourage the growth of beneficial bacteria. Now, it's really interesting that vegetarians, that especially vegans who don't eat any eggs or cheese or anything like that, they will have low levels of Firmicutes and high levels of specific types of Bacteroides and a particular strain of bacteria called Provotella, which absolutely loves fiber. The Provotella is a particular kind of bacteria that loves fiber. So when you eat whole grains and beans and nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables, it's going to encourage the growth of this Provotella, and you will then be at an extremely low risk for developing this TMAO. As a matter of fact, researchers have taken vegans, these are people who don't eat any animal protein, no fish, no meat, no eggs, no cheese. Vegans who live that way have specific bacteria, the Provotella, living in their gut, and they fed these vegans a steak, and it didn't raise their Firmicutes, the bad bacteria that triggered the TMAO. The TMAO never got elevated. So it's the type of bacteria living in your gut that precipitates the production of the TMAO. So this is another major factor that causes heart attacks and strokes. Between the LP little a and the TMAO, we're talking about two major factors that are hardly ever tested by doctors. Again, less than 1% of doctors are going to test for TMAO without a doubt. There's a few more doctors who are beginning to test for LP little a, but it's still far and few between. But if you're wise, you will ask your doctor to test for these two blood factors, TMAO and LP little a. And my friends, it's really paramount that you understand that if you have elevations of those two variables, that you are at a significantly higher risk of having a heart attack or a stroke and even some cancers. So please, please take every effort. Be vigilant and eat a plant-based diet. Reduce your intake of animal protein. Eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds. Make sure you're getting healthy, good fermented foods like sauerkraut and fermented pickles that are made with high quality pickles that are in the refrigerator section of a supermarket or at a Whole Foods. Make sure you're getting yogurt that is from plant-based. And by the way, my favorite plant-based yogurt is called So Delicious. And it's a coconut-based yogurt. There's zero sugar in it. You could add fruit to it. You could add some grains to it. You could add a little bit of honey if you want to it, some raw honey. And it tastes delicious. And it's got the probiotics that help to encourage the growth of good bacteria. So these are the kind of things that you can do to help to encourage the growth of the good bacteria and to kick out the harmful bacteria. Because the good bacteria, you know, they're strong. They're able to populate your gut and take ground and hold their ground and not allow those harmful bacteria to come in. Those harmful bacteria, there's many of them, like lipopolysaccharides. That's one that's really harmful bacteria. It gives off a lot of toxins. And when you eat a lot of animal protein, a lot of sugar, you trigger the growth of these lipopolysaccharides, which damage the lining of the gut and cause leaky gut and cause more inflammation and trigger more food sensitivities and food allergies and cause autoimmune diseases and set you up for heart disease, cancer and strokes and all these chronic diseases. Listen, you have significant control over your well-being, but you have to take charge. You have to make wise choices. And common sense clearly demonstrates that people from around the world who follow plant-based diets have significantly less incidence of all these chronic diseases. So please don't get sucked into these fad diets. Don't accept hook, line, and sinker what you see on a YouTube video of somebody who found some quick results on a low carb diet. Maybe there's a doctor who's supposed to be an expert and is promoting these low carb diets. They're only asking for trouble. It's a prescription for disaster, my friends. You should not fall prey to that. I hope you will learn, and I hope you will do some research, because there's a lot of good information out there if you just take the time. Now, we know that obesity is also another major risk factor for heart disease, strokes, even cancer, diabetes, all those conditions. When you're overweight, and we have 65 to 70% of Americans are overweight. It's appalling. We need to do something about helping Americans become thinner, healthier, more vibrant, more full of life. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, young people and old people, who say they're tired all the time. My friends, you don't have to be tired. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to let disease rule your life. I'm 74, and I can tell you, I'm going to the gym 3 times a week. Last night, I was at Planet Fitness, a gymnasium, and I was doing quick burst exercising, which helps to reduce the incidence of heart disease, by the way, helps to do a lot of other things. I'll talk about it on another episode. But I was doing quick burst exercising. Now, what quick burst exercising is, I was on a treadmill and I went as fast as I could for 30 seconds. I mean, I just barreled away 30 seconds. And then I got off the treadmill and I just walked around for around 90 seconds. And I got back on the treadmill and did it again for 30 seconds as quickly as I could. I did it for 7 cycles. 7 cycles, 30 on, 90 off. I was doing that at 11:30 last night, but I wasn't finished. I was actually working out with weights, doing weights that were helping to increase my muscle mass, to help to reduce the incidence of heart disease, strokes, cancer, and all those other things by helping to boost your body's metabolism, and to clean out the toxins, and to even help the beneficial bacteria. Yeah, exercise will do that. So we know that lifestyle factors are going to make the huge difference. Remember, food is your best medicine. Lifestyle modifications follows right behind it, whether it's getting good sleep. And by the way, when I came home last night, I slept like a baby. Never have any problem sleeping. And it's because I follow a plant-based diet, exercise routinely, pray and meditate, and drink plenty of water, and do all the things that are in my control and your control. You can make a difference. And I'm here to inspire you. I'm here to help you, to direct you, to give you a way out of feeling trapped inside of a body that's sick, tired, and overweight. So don't just settle for mediocrity. Henry David Thoreau, one of my favorite authors, this is what he said, and I love this quote. He said, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." Don't let that be you. You don't have to be in a situation where you're sick, tired, and overweight. You can make a difference. I want to help you. I'm here to inspire you. The guests of my podcast are here to inspire you. We are here to we're dedicating our lives to help you to have a better life. We want to make a difference in your life. You have to make an effort. It's so sad when I talk to people And I offer them a free consultation to change their diet and their lifestyle. And yet they're hesitant. Why is that? Why are people so stuck? Why are they so stuck in a lifestyle that is sending them to the grave with riddled with disease and being tired all the time, not getting good sleep, having emotional ups and downs, and feeling depressed and feeling anxious and getting angry? These are all things that most Americans are dealing with every single day. Yet there is a better way. There is a better way, and we have to take responsibility. We have to take a proactive role in our health. So, back to talking about obesity. Obesity is rampant in our culture, and it contributes to heart attacks and strokes and cancer and diabetes. Diabetes, 70% of people who are obese end up with diabetes. 70%. That's staggering. And by the way, we're told in research studies that by the year 2030, there's not going to be enough doctors, enough medical care facilities to treat all the people with diabetes. That's scary. We need to do something about it. When you are obese, your body needs more oxygen because you have more tissues and more cells and more tissues and more fat in your body. You need more blood circulating to be able to provide the nutrients to the body. You need more oxygen. And so the heart has to pump out faster. That's going to raise your blood pressure. It's not good. Elevation of blood pressure is a risk factor for a heart attack or a stroke. So reducing the weight will reduce the blood pressure. And also, as I said, diabetes is looming right behind all this extra fat that you're carrying around. So we need to really take make an effort to do something about these risk factors. And as I said earlier, the bacteria living inside of your gut that you have significant control over. We have more bacteria living on and in our bodies than we have human cells. We have over 100 trillion different types of bacteria living in and on our bodies. We have 10 times more bacteria than we have human cells. Who's running the show? We need to make sure that those bacteria living inside of our gut, which is about 38 trillion bacteria live inside of our gut. We need to make sure that they're the beneficial bacteria. They're the plant-loving bacteria that prevent disease. So make better choices. The people around the world, whether it's in the blue zones, and by the way, the blue zones, if you're not familiar with them, there are 5 regions in the world that have a very, very extraordinary healthy population. They have very low incidence of heart disease, strokes, cancer, diabetes, although it's changing now since the 50s. Back in the 50s, back in the 1950s, it was very low incidence of those things. But now we're starting to infiltrate our Western lifestyle into those blue zones, and they're increasing their risk for these diseases. But yet, prior to 1950s, they weren't influenced by our Western culture. They had a low incidence of those chronic diseases. So it's evident that our diet and lifestyle has a significant influence on our well-being, on the disease factor or the wellness factor. You have the ability to control that. So I encourage you, come back each week to the Other Side of Medicine. Follow me on the Other Side of Medicine. on my social media, whether it's on Facebook or our Facebook group. Join our Facebook group. There's a lot of great perks that you'll be able to get in our Facebook group at The Other Side of Medicine. Follow us on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram. All of these platforms, we have a presence, and we're trying to share with you vital information. Coming up this week, I have a test that I'm going to be able to provide you, a simple home test that you can do, that you will get instructions for with a book that I'm going to provide you for free. It's called the Bowel Transit Time book. It's absolutely free, and there's so much valuable information in that book. If you go to my social media at The Other Side of Medicine, there's a lot of information about how to get that free book. And like me on that social media, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, and follow us and get that free book. And inside that book, you're going to get lots of information. It's going to tell you how to do the test and then how to be able to interpret it. And most importantly, it's going to give you tips and tricks to be able to change the color, the size, the shape, the weight, and the type of stool that you have, the type of poop that you have, so that you can have a healthy one. And I've got picture illustrations inside the book that demonstrates what a healthy poop looks like and what an abnormal one looks like. And there's several different abnormal types. And you can identify which type that you have. And I give you specific tips on what you can do to change it so it becomes normal. So you could have the good bacteria. So you could have the low incidence of heart attacks, strokes, cancer, diabetes, and all those other chronic diseases. So, my friend, I am just delighted that you spent some time with us tonight. I encourage you to come back next week. We'll have a guest coming up in the future. I apologize for not being able to get those little clips that I wanted to share with you. But the nice thing about it is that you will be able to get all these things on my social media platform, as well as in my Facebook group. So until next week, my friends, may the good Lord bless you. Here's to your health. Bye for now.